Welcome back to the show, everybody. The Old Gabbox Radio Show and Podcast brought to you by our friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. I've told you many times, it's the best golf in the Caribbean. I'll be back down in December. Pete Dye, the late great golf course architect, designed 4 absolute gems of courses. And Teeth of the Dog, which is the best of the 4, reopens in December. I'll be down for that. Check it out, casadecampo.com, and they will plan out an incredible, memorable vacation for you and all your friends. All right, speaking of friends, our next guest, Chris Doering, former Florida Gator great. You see him on the SEC network. In fact, every Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending if I'm in a hotel traveling, I watch the wrap-up show with Chris and Ben Watson and Dari Noka, and they really break down all the games, which is great, and I love it. And Chris, it is so good to see you, because I know this time of year, you're rarely ever home. You're always on the road.
I am on the road a lot, but when you, my first play-by-play partner in this business, asked me to do something, man, I'm going to do it. So I'm in a hotel in Louisville, Kentucky.
Wow.
Got an event here tonight, but had to come hang out with my boy, man.
I appreciate that for a few minutes. Hey, tell me this before we get into Brian Kelly and everything. It was great to see Coach Spurrier at South Carolina on Saturday before the Alabama game. They honored his team from 2010. But Chris, I can't get used to the coach wearing the South Carolina colors. I've never gotten used to that.
I never could either. Maybe one of the most painful moments of my life was, I guess, that first year when Florida took on South Carolina when he was the coach there. I was on the sideline with Urban Meyer's coach Florida team in Columbia, looking across at my coach wearing different colors, coaching against the University of Florida. It just didn't seem right. So, hey, congratulations to him, the winningest coach at 2 SEC institutions. But
yes,
I like him in the orange and blue a little bit more, got to be honest.
Yeah, it was good to see him, though, and it appears even at 80 years of age, even though he's struggling to get around a little bit, it looks like he's in good spirits and in good health, so I really appreciate that. All right, let's talk about who's going to be the next Steve Spurrier. Who's going to be the next guy at Florida and or LSU, Chris? It appears Lane Kiffin now making the rounds, was on the Pat McAfee show. Jimmy Sexton is his agent, and you know Jimmy's burning the phones right now. Do you really believe, and I think most people do, that Lane is going to leave for one of those 2 jobs?
Yeah, I don't know, man. You know, I'm in such a tough spot working for the SEC network.
Yes.
I love all of these 16 institutions in our conference and would never advocate a coach leaving from one to another. But I think there's several coaches that are going to be of interest, not only for jobs open in the SEC, but around the country. I think I mentioned on our show this morning, it's almost like musical chairs, but instead of too few chairs, there's too few really qualified coaches to fill all of these chairs. So I don't know how it's going to shake out. I actually think the more interesting dynamic, Dougie, is the fact that there are other teams that may kind of be dissuaded from firing coaches just because of all the other competitors that are in that pool right now.
It is interesting, and I think you go back to 2021 when we had 20 openings, and now it appears at the end of this season, potentially we have more than 20 as the dominoes begin to fall. Tell me this now. It was interesting. I was reading Ross Dellinger's story, and he said at halftime of the LSU-Texas A&M game, the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, an LSU guy, got together with the board of trustees at the game. And basically the decision to let Coach Kelly go was made in the second half as things kind of disintegrated against Texas A&M. Are you surprised that politics now has kind of infiltrated these jobs, or is that just the way it is when so much money is involved?
Well, we had Deli on the show this morning, and he kind of chuckled as he talked about Jeff Landry being involved. He said that's the most Louisiana-esque thing there could possibly be when the governor is involved. But I guess there was an instance at Florida here recently where the governor and the board or something blocked who the board of trustees had come up with to be the next president at the University of Florida.
Yes,
so
right.
There's a lot of intertwining right now. But when you start dipping your toe into the football pool, that does seem very Louisiana specific. At the end of the day, I don't know whether it was a good fit or not. I say this, Doug, though. I have a lot of respect for Brian Kelly. I didn't really know him when he was at Notre Dame, kind of had an impression of who I thought he was, but after getting to cover him and his teams here over the last 4 years, I've grown to like him an awful lot. And maybe it wasn't the best fit, who knows, but I'm sure he'll bounce back and land on his feet and have a chance to coach somewhere else. He's the winningest active coach right now in college football. It's somebody in this coaching carousel, as you talked about, will certainly look at him as a quality find.
Yeah, no question. LSU, Florida, premier jobs with potential to do great things. And I wanted to throw this name out at you because I thought this was interesting. The billionaire owner of the Buffalo Bills, Terrence Pegula, is a Penn State guy. And reportedly, he's the guy who said, don't worry about the buyout for James Franklin. I'll take care of it. And Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, was the play caller for LSU when they had that great season under Ed Orgeron. Joe Burrow won the Heisman. He wants Penn State, or at least he's suggesting maybe you take a look at a young, energetic, dynamic Joe Brady. I'm thinking maybe LSU ought to look at Joe and bring him back home. I mean, that's a name we don't hear a lot being thrown out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Doug, because I think, when you fire somebody like Brian Kelly or, even Billy Napier at Florida, I don't think you have the ability to miss on the next hire. Scott Woodward's under some pressure, as is
right.
Scott Strickland at Florida. So to hire an up-and-comer, that hasn't really worked at Florida recently. But again, the home run hire was thought to have been Brian Kelly. And it's ironic that both Napier and Kelly were hired in that same coaching cycle, and both kind of out within 7 days of one another. But I think it's going to be a continued path like that these teams follow. It's like, are we going to be here again in the next 3 or 4 years with these same teams looking for another coach? I can't think of anybody out there that has the grand slam home run resume to feel ultimately confident in hiring the next guy, any path you choose to take.
Yeah, Chris, what is it though? Is it this new playoff deal? Everybody wants to get in, and are they hitting the panic button? I mean, obviously the game has changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years since Coach Kelly and Coach Napier were hired, and we saw Coach Saban leave, et cetera. But is that what it is? Schools are just panicking? We got to get the right guy to get in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it is. The definition of a good season has changed. Getting into that 12-team playoff field is certainly, for the Blue Bloods at least, what the line of delineation is. But I also think that when you see Indiana with Cignetti having success so
right.
quickly, when you look at Vanderbilt with Clark Lee getting them on the cusp of being in the playoff, like that puts even more pressure on the Penn States, the Floridas, the LSUs. So I maybe that is the path to go. Maybe it is the young up-and-comer that you find that is the diamond in the rough, because there's not a whole lot of people walking this earth that are still coaching that still have national championship wins on their resume. And I think other than that, you got to, especially in the SEC, I think it's so unique. You have to have a guy that has experience in this league, that understands the recruiting dynamics, that understands how to handle the boosters, that can withstand the rigors of playing the gauntlet that is the SEC schedule. And we go to 9 games next year, Doug. So it's only going to get more difficult in this league.
Tell me this, with that said, you might have said it on one of the shows, but the Southeastern Conference really is almost like the NFL now, whereas, everybody has a chance. Aside from Kentucky and Mississippi State at the bottom, who certainly are capable, Mississippi State's capable of upsetting somebody, but it's really, parity really has set in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the NFL model.
It's the most parity that I've ever seen in this league. We've always talked about it kind of being really talented. And when I was in the league, Vanderbilt always gave us a hard time, even though we were the best team in the conference and they were one of the worst at the time. It just always seemed like by the time we played them in November, you were fatigued, you're mentally, physically worn out, and Vandy, for some reason, had the ability to match up with us pretty well. But I think now it's even more difficult because of, you look at that Alabama run they went on. We were all talking about, and you made it through the four-game stretch of 4 ranked teams, beating those teams in successive weeks, something nobody had ever done before. And then we forget about going to Williams-Brice in Columbia and how hard the place that can be a place to play. So it is just the cumulative effect from week to week is so challenging in this league. And now we throw in a 9th game next year. I think we're going to continue to see those teams bunched up in that 9-3, 8-4 range going forward.
So, Chris, right now, if the season ended right now, and obviously Vanderbilt's got some huge games, everybody does, but if it ended now, you'd have A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. You'd have 5 in the 12-team playoff. That's the way it would be, right?
Yeah, that's the way it would be. Obviously, we're looking at Notre Dame. If they were able to go 10-2, how does their resume match up with the SEC teams? I think Oregon's going to lose another game, maybe this week or maybe next game against Iowa in Iowa. That would make them 10-2. I think without a real resume building top 25 win, they'd probably lose out to an SEC team. Let's not forget, Texas is playing every week for a playoff spot with 2 losses right now. Tennessee has a massive game with Oklahoma. That's an elimination game next weekend. So the playoffs start now in the SEC. This is not some December 19th starting date like it is for everybody else in the country.
Yeah, I heard you say that on the show. I mean, really, the playoffs have begun in the Southeastern Conference. There's no doubt about it, right?
No doubt. I mean, but to some degree, that creates a sense of urgency. We've seen it in the NFL a bunch where wild card teams get in after having to go perfect down the last couple of weeks of the season, and they're in mid-season, mid playoff form by the time they get there. So maybe there's a team that gets hot. Ohio State got hot at the right time last year after losing their last game to Michigan and found a way to win it all. I do think we're going to end up with 5 teams this year, and the fact that the top 5 don't play each other, I mean, how crazy is that the schedule just happens to work out that way for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it is nuts. And let's end it this way, because I know you got to get going. And, I think about the Florida situation. And when Coach Spurrier got hired, he was the perfect hire. He was the guy that wanted to come back. He'd had success at Duke, and man, did it pay off. And then when they brought Coach Meyer in, and he narrowed it to Notre Dame or Florida, and felt at the time Florida was the better chance to win a national title, and he won a couple of them. So those were 2 perfect scenarios where the stars were aligned. And now I think about Florida again, Chris. Is there another Spurrier, Urban Meyer out there? I mean, that's the, whatever it is, $100 million question, right?
Yeah, people kind of downplay fit sometimes. I don't downplay fit. I think fit's important, especially at a place like Florida, because not only do you have to win, but you have to win with offensive flair. You have to win by scoring points and a fun style of offense. Remember that year, Will Muschamp, I think, went 10-2.
He did.
But Florida was disappointed because there were a lot of close games, and it was a grinded-out, defensive-oriented team. It didn't appeal necessarily to the fan base as well. So I do think you got to find a guy that has SEC experience, that's an offensive-minded head coach, that has a little cockiness to him. Everybody says those same things, man. He reminds me a lot of Spurrier, and I think that's probably an unfair bar to set.
It is.
But I think it also is the realistic situation that Florida's trying to find lightning in a bottle with another Urban Meyer or Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, Shane was on the show last week, Shane Matthews, and he felt, and I know you've talked to him, he felt that Lane Kiffin is the closest thing to Coach Spurrier there is out there. And I guess in a lot of ways he may be right.
I thought that what Lane Kiffin did on Saturday going to Oklahoma, he did get a little cute at times down in the red zone, and certainly going forward on 4th and 1 from your own 25 is probably not the best thing to do. But I think in terms of his game planning, his play calling, his in-game adjustments, I don't know that there's many out there that are as good as him right now.
Lastly, Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, we haven't really touched on Alabama, but right now, if you look at the draft boards, Chris, he might be the #1 overall pick after this season. Is that a surprise to you?
It's a surprise given that, just a couple months ago, we weren't even sure if he was going to win the job. And now
Isn't
we're
that
talking
crazy?
about it being the first pick. He's been tremendous this year, man. Looking at his efficiency on 3rd down, his awareness for understanding coverages, when to buy some time to throw the ball down the field, when to take off and run. A couple of those throws, he made some fantastic throws against Missouri. That 4th and 8th throw was tremendous to Brooks. I mean, I just very impressed with this kid. And maybe the most impressive thing about it, Doug, is just he waited for his turn. In a day and age where 5-star quarterbacks, if they don't play right away, they're transferring, they're going elsewhere. He stayed the course, even through a coaching change, because it mattered to him taking over the reins at the Alabama Crimson Tide program. And just I'm so happy for him. And Coach DeBoer, this entire, it's not like Alabama's owed anything because they've had such a run of success. But I love these guys that have kind of taken some heat and yet stood in the fire and now are reaping the rewards of doing so.
Yeah, and you did a great interview with Coach DeBoer, too. Of course, I just like his demeanor.
Yeah.
Chris.
He's awesome.
All these coaches are over the top, excitable, et cetera, et cetera. He's just kind of a laid-back guy, and it's refreshing, to say the least.
It's refreshing, and it's also awesome that he is as available as he is. I mean, getting him on the show as frequently as we do, just speaks to, what he wants to do to be the face of this program and step up, good or bad. He's answering the questions in front of the microphone, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah, no question. Well, Chris, we appreciate it, my man. I guess another speaking engagement tonight, is that right?
Actually, you'd probably like a little bourbon tasting event that I'm here for in Louisville. So not many airports you go to that they have like a pop-up bourbon stand right in one of the concourses. But I guess this is a sign of where I am right now.
Bourbon and basketball, my friend, and horses.
That's right.
And they're going to have potential football opening too. So.
Well, hey, people talking about guys at Florida. Jeff Brom would be an unbelievable fit there as well. I played with him back in Denver and have a lot of respect for him too.
Yeah, Jeff Brom. Yeah, that's a name being tossed around, but he's at his alma mater, Chris.
Yeah,
You know how important it is to be at alma maters, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Take care, my friend.
Thanks,
Have
Doug.
a great rest of the season.
You too, man.